Hello, my name is Andreja Klinc and I'm coming from Slovenia. And today I'm talking with Belinda Chaplin. She's located in Banja Luka. And Belinda, it's such a privilege to have you today on this call and to chat a little bit with you about God's faithfulness and you being located in Banja Luka for 20 years now. Belinda, I know you are a part of many different programs, many different involvements you have. You are also a Central European convener, but I would like to also hear from you. What are some things that you are a part of in these times?
Well, thanks, Andrea. It's great to be here. Yeah, and thank you for inviting me to talk a little bit about what's going on with me. As you can see behind me, we've got Celebrating God's Faithfulness. I really do hope that this call will also celebrate his faithfulness in my life. Mm-hmm. I've been 20 years here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I right now work with a local church planting team here on the ground. Mm-hmm. And we mostly work with youth and with children locally. And obviously during COVID, that's not been as easy to do. Mm-hmm. But I'm involved also in the European Leaders Learning Community, which has been a really exciting development recently in Europe, where we help people to help leaders develop, and actually anybody who wants to be a leader to develop their leadership skills throughout Europe. As you mentioned, I'm part of the court circle or the convening team here in Central Europe. I've been in the leadership for over 5 years now, and it's been a privilege to serve in that way. I also help with our communication team, of which you're a part. And another circle that we're both a part of is the Bosnia, Slovenia, Serbia, and Croatia circle, which we meets once a month. I really enjoy being a part of what YWAM has to offer, and just what we do even in this time and virtually. It's been exciting to be a part of that. So
yeah. Wow, it's such a joy to listen to you and all the things that you're a part of. It's so exciting, and I see and also know what a large impact you have on many different regions and countries, and also on us individually. And as you mentioned, you've been now located in Banja Luka for 20 years. And it's been so evident, like all of the things that you are doing and been a part of. And can you tell us a little bit like about coming to Bosnia and Herzegovina? How was that for you back then?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, 20 years ago, I was a lot younger, of course. And I really felt the Lord call me to come here. When people say to me, like, why or how did you come to Bosnia? I always give the answer, well, God, as the sort of short answer. And it's definitely him that led me here. I grew up in South Africa, and I really felt that I was never supposed to leave South Africa. There was a lot of needs there. But the Lord slowly but surely changed my heart. So after I did my DTS in 1996, and spent time on staff at the YWAM base in Muizenberg. And then as time went on, the Lord really made it clear that Bosnia was where I was supposed to come. And I remember back then thinking it would just be for 2 years that I would come. And I just, the Lord faithfully helped me to learn the language. So actually, Slovene and Bosnian is quite similar. So something sometimes we can even have a conversation together, which is quite fun.
Exactly.
But because I learned the language, I felt, well, it's silly to go back to South Africa now that I know the language. So I thought, let's stay another 2 years and another 2 years. And now it's been 20. Wow. So I can't believe it, actually. Yeah, it's amazing.
Fantastic. It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, but how did you know about Bosnia back then? Like coming from even different continent. Where did you hear about Bosnia?
Well, I think, we all knew about Bosnia from the war, from the 92 to 95 war. But actually, my ancestry, my grandfather was Polish. So I was always interested in Eastern Europe. because of that heritage, and his stories about Poland. And behind the Iron Curtain, I was praying for the Bible smugglers and praying for people behind the Iron Curtain. And then when Bosnia War came, I was praying for the people in Bosnia. But I think also in South Africa, we have the heritage of apartheid, and at that stage we had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Like reconciliation was a big theme. And I felt, well, maybe I have something to add here in Bosnia, coming from South Africa, in the area of reconciliation. So I think those kind of things all kind of came together. And the Lord, like he told me to come for 2 months in 1999. And I just fell in love with the Bosnian people. And so when I came back to South Africa, I just knew I had to go back. Like it wasn't a, you'd seen them, I don't know, you'd seen them as refugees during the war, but actually, they're amazing people, and they have gone through so much, and can teach us so much because of that. So I think that's kind of where I knew Bosnia from.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Now, how was it for you back then to land well where you are today? What helped you to stay so long and to persevere and seeing God in such in a way that He has been so faithful, as you say, to you? Can you share with us a little bit of that?
Yeah, I've already shared a little bit about like having to learn the language. And I think when I first came in 99, I realized that you can't be anywhere long term without knowing the language. You can speak in English, people can kind of understand you, but just learning the language is so important. So that was one big thing when I landed. Another thing was, before I came, I actually did a School of Frontier Missions at Heidelberg in Holland. And that was so key. It was definitely something that helped me. Having the training through the U of N to teach you kind of how to survive on the mission field, and how to not just survive, but actually thrive, was so helpful. Making friends with locals rather than only just sticking to expats was one big thing. And in the beginning, I was actually deliberately not really trying to be too friendly with people who spoke English, so that I could learn the language faster. And then my one hint about language learning is find old people. So because they have a lot of time and they love to speak to people. So find old people who are willing to talk with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, seems like that your theme throughout this time has been God's faithfulness. Can you share with us a little bit about how you see it? How did you experience God's faithfulness in this past 20 years?
Yeah, so when I was thinking about how to celebrate my 20th anniversary, I have some good friends who were like, you have to celebrate. And I was like, how do I celebrate in COVID? Like, it's so hard. So I thought, well, let's do some sort of, Zoom call or Zoom meeting. And then I was like, I really love telling stories. And I kind of already thought of some stories that I could share. And then I felt, those stories need to be about God's faithfulness. I want the focus to be on Him, not on me, not on what I've done. Because I'm nothing without Him, and what I've done is nothing compared to what He's done. And so that's when I started thinking, okay, well, let's make these stories about celebrating God's faithfulness and not just about celebrating 20 years. And so then, and I was praying about it, and I felt to write 20 stories in 20 days for 20 years.
Wow.
So that's what I ended up doing. And and then we had the Zoom call together when we could celebrate God's faithfulness together and just look at some of those stories. And the stories are all on my blog. So it's easy to find. And then I realized actually that God is faithful. Like, it was so easy to write stories about when things were going well. And let's celebrate His faithfulness when things are going well.
Right.
And then the Lord, it wasn't like He convicted me, but it just felt like this is not real. Like, there's so many stories when He's been faithful, even though things have been hard or things have gone wrong.
Yeah.
So I wrote one of the stories in the 20 of like when it is hard. And then I realized that actually I need to write more stories. So I've actually started even today. I'm going to put them out every Friday to put out stories about God's faithfulness when it's hard, when it's difficult, in the hope that it will encourage people. Like not as a sort of, oh, I'm so, feel sorry for me, but it's like, no, it's hard, but God is still faithful. Like he's always going to be faithful. He's always with us, even in the hard times. So yeah.
Wow, amazing. And it's so inspiring, to listen, so encouraging to see how you persevere through this whole time, and how God stayed faithful, as you say, and how he provided, answered probably to many prayers. Is there something that you could share with us that maybe about when things were hard and challenging? Do you have like any story that quickly comes to your mind? And would it be great if you can share with us?
Well, I think the blog is it's kind of a public forum, and it's quite hard to write stories necessarily about things that are hard when it's including other people. And I think even on this interview, I can't really share that much about, because actually some of the hardest times have been because of team conflicts or things like that happening. But God is still faithful even in through that. But I think probably the hardest thing is if you stay for 20 years in one place in YWAM, or actually in any mission organization, but YWAM especially, you're going to be saying goodbye a lot. And actually it just gets, you kind of, it's normal. And but it's still hard. There's been people that I've said goodbye to that, I know I'm never going to see them again. They've gone on to glory. There's been people that I've said goodbye to that were really good friends, that were from Bosnia, actually, Bosnians. They've moved to go to another country, for instance. But there's been a lot of sort of cross-cultural workers as well. And I think if you were to say to me, what is the hardest thing about staying long-term, I think it would be the saying goodbye. But God is the one that's there. God is the one that's constant. He's the one that's faithful, even through that. And learning to say goodbye well, and to mourn it, to lament, to say, Lord, this is hard. It's not easy when someone you love is going. But to know that even in that, he's with you, and he's faithful. So.
Thank you so much for sharing some of your challenges, and they're real, but God never changed. He stayed faithful, and he stayed the same throughout this whole time. And I hear what you're saying, so thank you so much for sharing some of your thoughts on that. How would you encourage some other people that are maybe thinking to move out to a mission field? What are some of your encouragements or tips or hints along this way?
I think you need to know that God is calling you to that place, or calling you to whatever you're going to do. It doesn't have to be a place. It could be a ministry. Because as soon as you know that, everything else is easy. And that if you know that that this is what God wants, then it's so much easier. I mean, like there's the whole thing about YWAM is you hear the word of the Lord, and then you obey it, and then you don't quit until he gives you another word. So I think that's been what sustained me over these 20 years is making sure you've heard the word of the Lord. And that includes getting wise counsel. It includes making sure that it's biblical, making sure don't just like think, okay, this is the word of the Lord, and then go for it. There has to be, you need to be very, very sure. And then, just, obey it, step out, do it. And then don't quit. I think it's simple. And I think if you follow those kind of steps, it's the team conflicts, the people leaving, the I mean, one of the stories that I tell is like, I'm from South Africa, like we don't have snow, we don't have winter, like it gets cold here.
Right.
But dealing with that is, you know, I know that this is where I'm supposed to be. I now actually kind of like the snow, you know, so it's kind of weird and funny, and God is amazing.
Right. Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
So those are things. I mean, I've said some things already. Learn the language. If you're going to a place where they speak another language, make local friends, if you can. Because if you only make friends with other missionaries, if you're stuck on a YWAM base and you're only making YWAM friends, then there's something wrong. You need to get out into the community. And that way you can stay for the long haul.
Yeah. This is so good what you say. I believe it's inspiring and speaks to many of us, many people who are maybe either thinking or are on a field already, you know. So thank you so much for your heart in this. So much wisdom, so much wisdom.
Thanks, Andreja.
Yeah, you, Belinda, you mentioned a little bit earlier, but you were also able to celebrate in some ways over Zoom this milestone, this huge, big, extraordinary, you know, event. How was that? Tell us a little bit about your celebration.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps saying huge, like I feel like I'm not worthy, like this is God, like it's not just me, and I'm not just doing that to be like falsely humble. I really don't believe that. I know I couldn't have done this without him, but thank you. And I was blown away because I had sort of organized an event that I thought would be quite fun and exciting, and then some friends, including Andreja, got together. In fact, she was the main instigator, got together to make a video with people from all over the world to share just, you know, encouragement and congratulations. So yeah, I think we all ended up crying on the Zoom call because it was really, really amazing how and it just was so encouraging. And I think God knew I needed that encouragement at this time when it is hard. It's hard through COVID. It's hard, you know, what are we doing? Where are we going? What's happening? And I was kind of doing this to kind of encourage other people, you know, look at what God's done during and so, but then actually to realize that he kind of orchestrated it so that I would be encouraged as well. One of the things that I do is actually at the children's home here in Banja Luka. We've been running a project there for over 10 years to run like a book club, like a reading club for the kids. And I love it. It's like my favorite thing. We have lots of volunteers coming and helping us, local ones that aren't even good churchgoers. But, and they, you guys organized that they would actually say something on the video. And it was like, once we got to the kids, it was like, okay, I'm done. Like it was just so sweet. And I think, it was the sweetest thing. So I think if it was just so encouraging to me that people took the time to do that and celebrate with me. And also celebrate God. Like it wasn't just about me. It really was that we are celebrating God and what he's done over these 20 years.
Yeah, I was in this call or this Zoom celebration, and for sure there was a sense that God is in the center of the celebration. It's not like individuals or I don't know, funny stories or events that happened throughout this time, but it was God at the center. And I think that was so impressive for us to experience and to be part of that for sure. Yeah. Now that we are coming to an end, I would like you to share with us a little bit about stories that you are still writing. You are continuing writing some stories. Tell us more. Why did you decide that? What can we expect from some of the stories? Where can we find them?
Okay, so as I shared a little bit before, like I decided that I'm not done with the stories. People were so encouraging about hearing about God's faithfulness in my life, and then I realized that there's this need for stories of God's faithfulness even when times are hard. So I started a blog series like stories of God's faithfulness when it's hard. And so it's coming out on my blog every Friday. The first one came out today. And it's on singleness and loneliness today. And I'm hoping it will resonate with people, even if you're not a missionary, even if you're not there's going to be something in there for everyone, but it's my experiences and what God's taught me basically through those experiences. Yeah, so we'll put the link to my blog in the bottom of this video so that you can click through there and get to it.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to be about like self-promotion and this is rah me. It really is about making sure that God is celebrated and his faithfulness in my life is celebrated. And that we can, I kind of, as you say, like I want to share that what I've learned, those lessons that he's taught me with other people. So that's my sort of hope and dream. And I don't know where it's going. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I kind of felt, the Lord say, okay, the 20 stories and then now this series, and we'll see. I mean, part of me is thinking maybe one day there'll actually be a series of stories of God's faithfulness amongst Bosnians.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking maybe in the future. So look out for that as well.
Yeah. Wow, Belinda, listening you in this past, 10, 15 minutes, it's just so inspiring to hear, like a story that God has been writing in you and through you in Banja Luka, in a region, in a whole Europe, like impact that is here, it's out here, it's so big. And it's for sure evident to see how God has been faithful to you and to many other people in this time or throughout this time. So thank you so much for your heart, for everything that you share with me, with us today on this interview. And I really hope that when you guys out there listen this interview, this recording, that it will resonate with you, how God is faithful and he never changes and he stays the same. So blessings on you, Belinda, on Banja Luka and everything that you are doing, and blessings to everyone else who is listening this recording.
Thanks, Andreja. God bless you.
Thank you.